Good morning and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? It is now September, which means it is no longer August, which means it's a new month. And the month that was last month, that was August, is no longer within the 2023 cycle. It has been retired. Augusta retired for 2023. We are now on to September 2023. This will be the first day of that month. This is breaking news. I felt it was very important that we start the day this way. Um, Before we get into some other things, Bender, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
All right. So what do we got with this data? Bender, it's always, something that I look at and it always kind of like, it's like, oh, how cute. When you have data that says, you know what? Wages are going down and unemployment ticked higher. Guess what, baby? We make green candles.
That should
we
help inflation.
we make helps inflation, brings on recession. We're gaining on it. We are gaining on it. Whew, amazing. So yeah, no, that's the data that we got this morning. Again, this is what the Fed has wanted to see, and so when you start getting these, and we can call them cracks within the economic data, going back to what we were talking about earlier in the week, as far as not fighting the Fed, not getting in the way of the Fed. Um, it begs the question, does the Fed believe that we were on pace to where we can skip again? Is there another rate increase in the mix? If we go back to Jackson Hole, if we go back to Mr. Powell, Mr. J. Powell, and his commentary of it is important that we don't do too little, but we certainly can't do too much. This is the quadrillion dollar question, the quadrillions of dollars. So when we have, again, these little in betweens in the world, it's like, okay, so bad data can be good for the market, but for how long? Bender, the charts, buddy. What about them charts? Show us what you got.
Well, we can't do too little, but we can't do too much. How do we get to the just right?
Just
Because the
well,
data lags.
data lags, and he's the most finicky Goldilocks motherfucker that's ever walked. So it's like he's sitting there tasting porridge, trying to figure it out. In the meantime, um, you know, players like us are being like, do I buy calls or puts? Do I go long or short? Do I do this or that? Intraday within the charts, it really doesn't matter. If you're swinging long term, if you're trying to put on positions, that's where it becomes a little bit more sketchy. I think that a reasonable person would say that, hey, data is moving in the right direction. More rate cuts, I mean, more rate hikes are going to absolutely fucking create a massive mess, right? That's a reasonable person. But what we've noticed with the Fed, what do they do? They stay, what is it? They stay too long and they don't get there soon enough, or whatever they do. They're just late and bad at what they do. How about that?
Always
They're
late and they stay too long. Yeah.
correct. So it's like that we know. So stay too long seems like a thing um, that they tend to do, and we're in that phase of the stay too long. We won't know. I don't know when the Fed meets again. I'm assuming it's in a couple of weeks. So I guess we'll figure out, what it is then. But until then, we have to be data dependent, and data says everything is moving in the direction that the Fed wants. The question now becomes is it enough for them not to raise again? Is it enough? Do they want to go ahead and it's almost as if, Bender, and we've used a lot of different analogies, that Powell has the lifeline of America in his in a chokehold with a knife to the throat of the heart of America, and is debating whether or not to be like, okay, this is enough, or he's going to go ahead and slide that blade right across the jugular. That's where we're at. Is he going to slide that blade? Is he going to do it?
Oh, it's pretty dark.
Dark bastard, man. He sits there and likes to come off as fucking Mr. Rogers, but the dude is a killer. The dude is a straight killer, but one of those cowardice killers. He's a coward. Not he's not of the people. In fact, the enemy of the people. So to keep me from ranting on longer, if you could
Wait,
please,
wait, wait.
what?
Do you hear that? Like it's in a wind tunnel?
That's not me. That's not me.
Who's in a wind tunnel?
Sounds like
Somebody
Stonks.
sleeping?
Not me. Mine has been muted.
I think that Stonks.
I don't hear anything.
That's because you were snoring into your microphone.
Oh God.
You were like
We'll
in a
give you-
dream state. What was going on over
We'll
there?
give you a pass, man. It's not even 6 a.m. there. We'll give you a pass. It's all right, buddy. It's all right.
I mean,
All
the
right.
construction guys aren't here yet. I don't know.
He's like, where am I? What's going on?
Yeah.
How did I get here? What did I do wrong?
Just a second ago, I was in a flying disc over the moon. Now I'm awake. All right. Well, let's look at the charts a little bit. Let's start. I'm going to. All right. We'll start with the daily. So you see this 810 high. We took that out on these green candles this morning. What sits above is that August 4th high sitting out here. And we've got a new week opening gap sitting up at 45.64.25. And then that regular trading hours gap sitting above that we've talked about. And obviously this daily volume imbalance. I think that, you know, the bigger picture is that the draw, you know, we see these daily candles, the market pushing up, pushing up, pushing up, pushing up, right? I think we go take out this high. Doesn't necessarily have to be today, but we did have a down close candle yesterday. So I'm kind of leaning towards we go take this high out. That's 45.60. So it's only about 17 up from here. And that's where I'd kind of be watching if we do take that out over that 45.60. That's where I would be watching for, you know, signs that it's going to turn around. Now, because we took this out this morning, I'm also not going to be blind to the fact that, you know, taking that high means everything in here is gone, right? This was kind of the last bastion before we get to that August 4th high. But it's now that it's taken it and kind of pulled back, I want to see what it, you know, kind of how it responds, what the, you know, 5-minute candles, 1-minute candles start to look like above or below that level. We get back above it. We get a nice candle through it that leaves a fair value gap. Pulls back into it. That's a trade I'm interested in to go take this 45.60. And then if that gets taken, kind of repeat the scenario, look to see if it wants to, you know, maybe it pushes into that old new week opening gap. Again, 45.64 half was that old new week opening gap. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for. I think decent chance we go take this out. As far as, you know, what we're looking at below on the daily chart, well, as we just talked about, these daily candles just pushing up, going for liquidity, stops higher. We've got this huge daily fair value gap here, which will be something that we'll track, you know, when the direction changes and it decides that, we're going to start coming down. So this is a level that we'll monitor. We'll keep on the chart, 44.96.25. So that's kind of the look on the daily. We're coming up to the midpoint or the bottom of that parallel channel, right? So we'll see what we do with that. If this thing really wants to create some fireworks, then we could end up trading up into this daily volume imbalance, just under 4,600. I'm not expecting that we go that high today. Like I said, if anything, if we can get back above this 810 high, maybe we trade up into this new week opening gap. But I'll do whatever they want with it. All right, so zooming in, now that we kind of know where we sit on the daily, let's look at a 15-minute. And looking at the 15-minute, going back to, the midnight open, kind of right in here. It was 15, so right here was your midnight open, 45.20 half. Fine, right there. So looking at that, up until 8:30 a.m. 30, and that was that news candle, right? So if I'm looking at that, and I kind of look back to where the buy side liquidity was, it took that out, right? And then it took out that previous high from the 10th right here. So took all that stuff out. If we're going to get a reversal, I would be looking for a higher candle above that previous high. And then that would need to kind of pull back below, zooming into a 5-minute, and you can see the area that currently inside of this 5-minute fair value gap currently holding, right, as support. So let's go to a 1-minute, and you can kind of see this is where the liquidity sits now. So if we're going to go higher, I wouldn't be surprised to see them take this, right, and then pull back up and leave a fair value gap behind that it trades into to go higher. If this gets taken first, we either get a candle above, leave a fair value gap behind, and go higher, or we get that candle above and pull back down. If we get below here and this becomes resistance, that would look like a shift. To me, that would take us then pre-market. The first draw would be down here, the 45.30 area, 45.29 half. And below that, sell side is down here, 45.13 half. Right? So currently sitting 45.41, that gives you 30. 18 to the downside. Or sorry, 30 to the downside here. And then the potential for about 30 or so up to get to that old high. Everything in between is, say, everything in between 45.38.25 and 45.46.25. This is kind of like, this is no man's land in here. So that's kind of how I'm setting the day up and what I'm looking for early to give me some indication as to what levels I might be playing for. Make sense?
Good stuff. Looking good. Sounds like Hell's stepped away to do some bear hunting. Sunny.
All right. Sun, what you got? Sun. All right.
I'm
Well,
back. Can you guys hear me?
okay. There you go. Yep.
There we go. All right. So on the upgrade side, we have Melee price target raised to 1,650. 3M also got a price upgrade. PZZA, that's gotten a couple of upgrades. Lulu had their ER, so Raymond James said, "Hey, may as well upgrade it." So there is a price target to 440. Downgrades, Dollar General, everybody is downgrading it. Around 145 to 150 price target. On the news side, so the Chinese EV makers reported their numbers. NIO, XPeng all had really good numbers. Talking about the EV, so Tesla introduced a new Model 3 the other day, and in China they slashed the pricing across the board on all the older models from 15 to 22%. They plan to do the same in the US. So when they do it in the US, all of those older models will qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit. Broadcom is projected to become the second largest AI semiconductor with the revenue of about 7 billion next year. So they are also gonna get some upgrades, price target increases. And on the legacy automakers, so the union is threatening strike. So Ford came up with a wage increase of about like 9%. Unions want 45% increase. So there's a slight difference there. If they don't reach an agreement by the 14th, the strike is on for GM, Ford, Stellantis. Boeing put out their numbers. So they delivered 309 new aircrafts in 7 months. It's about a 25% increase. But Airbus is killing Boeing in the deliveries. And so Boeing also has that issue with the 737 MAX. They haven't resolved yet. So that is going to cause some issues for the future deliveries for them. Walgreens boot. So their CEO resigned and they have guided down their full year earnings. And the writer strike that's going on. So Barry Diller, I don't know who he is, but he's telling the legacy studios to keep Netflix out of the negotiations because Netflix is going to try to drag out the strike because it helps them over all the legacy studio streaming. Because Netflix does have a very big portfolio of movies, TV shows that they've been holding on to. He thinks like if this drags on, it's gotta be bad for Disney, Paramount, NBC Universal, and Hulu, stuff like that. SPXW numbers. So largest gamma level is 4,500, then 4,550, and 4,525. Zero gamma is around 4,480. But if the numbers update, I will post it in the chat. And there's also news about X, but it doesn't Twitter. They're gonna start collecting biometrics and employment information from its users. I think they want to compete with LinkedIn going forward, start posting jobs and things like that. And that's it.
What was all that stuff you sent me this morning?
Remember, you had talked about if you start seeing selling into the mega caps, Meta and stuff like that.
That's what that was. Okay.
So those are all the cells I marked it, all the big ones.
Yeah, let's real quick. What were the biggest ones on there? So I didn't see. You had Snow.
There's Snow, ADSK, Meta, Team, Bill, UPST.
Relatively
small numbers. I think this could be like the month-end selling they had to do.
Okay.
But something I'm keeping an eye on since you mentioned it. Yeah, I did see it. I hadn't seen it for the whole month, so it came up. I was like, oh, okay, let's just put it out.
Yeah, we'll keep track of that. If you start seeing, if you start seeing a theme,
Larger
some repetition, and some larger ones. I mean, when we were, before we really started the descent, the size was there, right? And
Yeah,
it was like,
yeah.
we're talking 20% that was being sold.
Yeah, and also this month also is the quarterly OPEX, so we may see some more activity in there. We
Yep.
did see a
Sure.
large activity into the dark pools yesterday. Nvidia had another $1 billion dark pool. Microsoft also $1 billion. Apple $1 billion. Um, Adobe also they came in, but not that big, but like $200 million into that. So across the board they came in, and dark pool wise there was a lot of activity. I kind of gave up after 10 minutes of looking at it. I just tagged the bigger ones.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that. Stonkington, what you got
All right.
on your charts?
I've exited the wind tunnel and I am ready. Let's see what we got. Here we go. All right, Smashburger. We've been talking about these all week. Doesn't automatically mean it will play out, but it is in play on the queues again. Larry Williams smash day again. Reminder: failed breakout. So when we close outside the prior day's range, we're looking for a failed breakout in the opposite direction. Meaning, when we had this green candle close above that one, was looking for a potential short if we broke that low. Same thing. So we just keep closing above the prior day's high. So I set an alert that will pop in the room. If we were to break yesterday's low, we'll get that alert, and then your stop would be above that high. Although we would say, we're already above that pre-market here. SPY, a little bit different there. Did not close above the prior day's high, but I'll just leave the alert if we were to break the low from August 30th. We'll get that pop in the room. So let's jump into the NASDAQ with all the markup. Start on the daily here. So we have, I'll hide this just for a moment. We have this daily fair value gap that we are now inside of. So potentially there's room on the NASDAQ up to this 15,727.50. And then we've got daily volume imbalances, which is just the difference in the bodies of these candles up here. Got one up there. We've got this body to that one. So some volume imbalance action going on there. This one, just to give us another level inside this fair value gap to kind of be aware of. I have the midpoint marked just in case, that's so that we could have a halfway point check on our way if we continue to the upside. If we are going to pull back, this was the order block line on the 4-hour that we looked at yesterday pre-market, which we've now popped. So if this becomes like breaker type thing, essentially resistance becomes support. This would be, if we're pulling back, I'm going to be looking for the reaction to 15,55975. So that would be what I'll be watching. If we break down through that, jump back over to the daily. We've got this daily fair value gap here that was left behind on this big run this week. And I would be anticipating this area, if we got there, would work as support, 43075. So that would be the NASDAQ. If we jump over to the Russell, looks pretty good on the 4-hour. We've got this rising wedge that it's working on. Orange lines are a weekly gap. So you can see the rising wedge just looks pretty clean there. I'll hide this so we can kind of clearly look at the weekly. Let's see. All right. So the high of this candle here to the low of this candle here was a weekly fair value gap that we have now filled in. So with today being the last day of the week, if we were to close above this orange line there, that 1918.3, we could be looking for everything in this area to then work as support into next week. So be tracking that, see what today's price action looks like. Similarly, we had a daily fair value gap that was these candles. The horizontal lines marked in green is the high of this candle to the low of this candle. When we had this daily candle close above, that has me looking to this area to continue to work as support. So if we were to pull back, potentially be looking for a move down through here and then this yellow box is a daily fair value gap now that's been opened up by the low of this candle to the high of this candle, which also lines up with this orange line that was the weekly gap. Above, we've got this 4-hour fair value gap. That could be an upside target. If we get cooked into the upside, I'll be looking first for the reaction here up at 1927.70. And then we've got room. The orange is going to be another weekly gap above. So we'll see what we get. But then again, we've got that this rising wedge. We're stuck in there. So we'll see what we get on the Russell. These are kind of the levels I'll be looking for throughout the day. Sonny mentioned big money thrown around on Apple last night. And that came in at 187.87. That's going to be that line right there. So in this situation with Apple popping pre-market, what I would do is just swap this 1880. That would now become the put trigger. And I'd be looking above this dark pool, 189.77. So I'll be calling that out in the room, see what we get. And then, yeah, if we came down and retest, I'd be interested to see if we got to 187.87, see what we got. Then the other one I'm going to keep an eye on here is NVIDIA. NVIDIA's dark pool came in at that 493.55. So that could then become our put trigger. And then we could just probably have something like that for a call trigger. Let's see. Let's go. 498.50, nice round number. So we'll see what we get there. And I think that's all I've got. I did have an idea. I guess we got a couple minutes. We were looking at the dollar. Maybe we could go through the dollar in terms of how I would chart it out, ICT style. Maybe just do that since the dollar is making some moves. I don't know. We got a couple minutes.
Yeah, go for
All
it.
right, might as well. All right, so I have it blank here, and so when I just kind of start on longer time frames and then drill down, and then I use 2 indicators here when I do the charting out, and then I just take them off once I have them done. So I use this fair value gap spaceman, and then I use this smart money concepts, and so the smart money concepts one that is one I use to help find order blocks. I'll show what that looks like. There's none here on the weekly. It also will highlight break of structure. But I chart it out with these turned on, but I don't like leaving them on during the price action, because like if you have a 5-minute chart up, these just throw gaps all over the place. But basically, so then I just would come in through here and start marking these up myself. So if we're starting on the monthly, so that's a big gap there above, and then we got the big one below. So then I just kind of start to drill down from here. We jump over to the daily. This is where you can kind of see these order block indicators start to pop up, which is going to be these kind of lighter red shaded boxes and then the blue below. It kind of, this indicator shows you based on the candle. To me, it looks like it's picking the candle right before the order block in some cases. But basically the concept of the order block is someone, who's looking to take a trade in the other direction, basically meaning like these candles here, these green candles would be bears that wanted to get in cheaper. So basically, and then Mr. T would be marking out the midpoint on these. So I've put like a horizontal line right here, which looks like, midpoint of this candle, rejection, something in here, rejection, and then that would be a bearish order block because these were bears trying to get in cheaper, and then similarly would come over here, and this would be like a bull who wanted to get in cheaper would be this guy, and then we've marked that as a green one. So that's kind of like, and then I just kind of keep drilling down from here. We've got a daily fair value gap above, daily fair value gap below, and then kind of helps once you turn off the indicators, you can kind of see what you got going on. There's also this volume imbalance here that could be notable on the dollar. But in terms of like, if we go out on a longer time frame, the draw there, it's like weekly, there was a fair value gap here that's all filled in. we've got one here down below. But one thing that's notable is like we've got kind of more equal high stops above sitting on the dollar, which would be easier for it to run all those stops above. And then if we were to pop that line above there, then we have that big monthly gap with all that. So it's like the dollar just kind of making these highs above kind of looks a bit bullish on my end. But I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's helpful, but this is kind of my process. I think those are some good indicators if you're trying to learn the ICT stuff and trying to train your eyes to spot the gaps and things like that can be really helpful. But I think that's kind of all I got. I don't know if there's anything else on that one, if anyone else has any other thoughts.
No. Hells, are you back? Okay, I think maybe Hells is muted or something. He's probably sitting over there cussing at the screen. Has no idea. Right? Trying to find his own rug.
Sounds like it.
All right. Well, anybody got anything else? Son?
No,
anything else?
No.
All right. Well, we got about 7 minutes till open. It is Friday, the most important day to not fuck up. Don't ruin your weekend. Stay green.
It's gonna be a long weekend too.
That's right. We're off on Monday, aren't we? Is that
Yes,
this
we got
week?
no Monday. Yeah, that is this week. It's holiday. It's barbecue
Now he
time.
comes back.
Hey, man, just stuff, such as and whatnots, appear to be abound today.
All right.
Such as and whatnots. Yeah, Monday.
Well, let you close it out because we're done. We all did our thing.
All right. Well, everybody did their thing. We're now closed. As far as the show for today, the market will open in about 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Today is Friday. We can anticipate what I think to be maybe lowish type volume, maybe the road to nowhere, or maybe we go up and tickle that pleasure box to the upside that Bender showed us, which it's tickling something right now. That's all we got. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks, guys, for picking up slack for me today. We'll see you guys on the show next week.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.